The main problem is always going to rest with the owner. If you understand that all problems are leadership problems, every single one of them, from the utensil that just dropped on the floor to the dirt spot on the door to your P&L to whatever else, they're all leadership issues. So you need to be developing your ability to lead people and a business constantly.
Welcome to another episode of WISKing It All. We're here today with Jeffrey Summers. Jeffrey is the founder of Summers Hospitality Group and has over 4 decades. That's right, 4 decades of experience. So I'm super excited to have him on the show. So Jeffrey, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm excited to dive in. I want to learn more about what you do, how you do it, but I always kind of like to start with the why. So you've been in the industry for more than 4 decades, as I said. I think that's a lifetime of hospitality wisdom. So I'm always curious about the kind of why. So what first pulled you into restaurant, and what's kept you hooked for this many years? What
pulled me in was the ability to deal with people on a daily basis and solve problems with immediate results. If I saw an issue, I could do something about it then, and I could see the outcome seconds later. That kind of was my first opening to that drug, and it permeated my entire being at some point, and it just kept me around.
I love that.
I was on my way to be a lawyer in college when I got my first restaurant job.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know, just being around food and being able to do things with your hands. I was very hands-on, came up from a family that built houses for a living. So working in the trades was always my family thing. So that was it.
I love that. And let me ask, so you were starting to become a lawyer, and your first job, I'm always curious, and we'll get into like all the stuff you do today, but I always like to get a little snippet of the journey.
Sure.
So what did that look like? You just took a job, maybe, needed some cash like a lot of people do when they start in the space.
Absolutely.
What did that look like?
It looked like getting up at 5 a.m. every day to go in and make biscuits.
Okay.
Wash windows, put the grill back together, and then once we open, make biscuits. And then after that, go to lunch and work the grill. So it's been a hands-on experience ever since.
Since day one. And so what did your trajectory look like, right? Like, obviously, we're going to get into Summers Hospitality and what you do today and how you've helped so many, businesses and restaurants. But how did you go from, okay, I got a part-time gig just to make some cash? What was like the evolution? Like, what was the next step and the next step before you kind of were like just deeper and deeper in the restaurant space?
They saw that I was doing the job really well. And I'm going to use the phrase back then. That was in short supply. There was a labor shortage and et cetera. And we're talking the early 80s. So I was available. I was a body. I got thrown into different situations, and they saw that once I was thrown into situations, I could easily master them and handle them. And then I just simply became the master of my own fate at that point.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And when you look back at, let's say, just your career, is there a moment where like it really hits you? Because like, imagine day one, you're working, you're making some side cash, you're doing a good job, you're good at what you do. But was there a moment where you said, okay, this is exactly why I do what I do? Like, you really knew the restaurant space was for you?
When my name was on the door for the first time, and I was controlling people's paychecks, and I was able to influence to a great degree their trajectory in their own career paths and life paths. And I was really good at it at that point. So that was the moment.
Cool.
When the first person I hired to be an hourly employee became a manager.
That's cool.
That solidified it. And from there, it's like, I can do this once, I could do this 1,000 times. And then for the next 30 some odd years, that's exactly what I did.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And just out of curiosity, it's not that it's the most important detail, but I'm curious because you're talking about, when your name was on the door, what kind of concept was it? Like, what was your first concept and how was that experience?
Long John Silver's.
And how tell me a bit about how did it go? How was your first at bat at, owning a spot?
The first spot was owned was here in Texas, and that was 20 some odd years ago. And I hadn't consulted at all. I'd still been working with chains and country clubs and stuff.
Right.
And I started answering some questions on a couple internet forums for operators.
Right.
One thing led to another, and one of them called me up and said, "Look, I can't do this email back and forth anymore. I need to have your butt in my business." So I packed a bag and got on a plane and went and helped her. We became partners, and that was that.
Awesome. And let me ask you, so from, from about to be able to become a lawyer to then jumping into the restaurant space, end up falling in love with it, you kind of grow in that space. I think from what I'm hearing, the one of the most important things for you is that gratifying feeling of helping others and helping them grow. And so then you decide at some point, obviously I'm shortening here because I'm sure there's a lot of details and ups and downs and never just looks like this. But at one point you basically say, okay, I love helping, coaching, growing people and businesses. I want to start my own thing. So I'd love to understand, when was the inception of Summers Hospitality Group where you're like, okay, it's time to do this as a service, as a business?
It was back in 2004, and it started with that first client that called me up and said, "Look, I need your butt in my business."
Okay, wow.
And then I realized, you never know what you know until you have to use it in a venue or at a time where you didn't anticipate. So that's exactly what I did.
That's
and then
neat.
From there, it's like, well, if I can do this again, it goes back to the first iteration I had when I first determined if I can help one person that I hired become a manager and grow their life and their business. And then the second time around, help an operator do the same thing on a bigger scale, then that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome.
So I formed my company, and that was 20 some odd years ago.
That's so cool. And so I know one of the things you talk about is next practices instead of best practices.
Right.
I'd love for you, we have a lot of operators that listen, owners, operators, et cetera. We have a pretty good base of those types of listeners. And so my angle with the podcast is simple, just trying to get people with wisdom like yourself and share that knowledge so they can learn something. So I'd love to, let's start there. Can you share what that looks like in real life for an operator? Next practices instead of best practices.
You know what the term best practices mean. And I determined a long time ago that all the jargon that we use in the business world doesn't apply. You have to create your own. And you create your own because your situation is unique. So best practices, if somebody puts a list of the top 10 best practices that a restaurant operator should do, might be relative to some degree, but it doesn't exactly all fit your business. So what you have to do is develop your own systems and processes and your own approaches to the issues that you face in your business, on your street, with your guests and your employees and your money. And that becomes next practices. Doing what you need to do. It's just a practical viewpoint and exercise in determining what you need to do, not necessarily the guy across the street. If you keep copying that, you don't have your own business. You have a copy of somebody else's. So best practices really don't apply. I mean, especially if you get into the metrics for best practices. You need a third of all that crap. I mean, it doesn't apply. Maybe you got a third for this and 2/4 for that. I mean, it just doesn't matter. You got to look at your business through your own lens and through the lens of the guest and the lens of your employees and determine for yourself what works in your four walls.
That makes sense, and I've seen that also. Like it's the lesson I also learned, just like growing Whisk, our software business. We work with the restaurants, but growing Whisk is like sometimes it's like be careful or be wary, not careful, be wary of the whose advice you take, right? Because I don't
Absolutely.
think people are malicious, but sometimes it's like if
And sometimes they
someone,
are.
yeah, sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't, but it's like the one of the best advice I got, at least for the kind of tech world, was like try to take advice from someone who's a few steps ahead, right? Because sometimes I'll give a simple one: marketing. You might have a massive CMO of $1 billion company, and sure, he might give you advice, but it's not practical when you're a startup. And then you might have the opposite: a startup person who's giving you advice, but you're like, mid-size and you're doing 10 million a year. And so like I think knowing where someone is in their journey is also a good indicator of how relevant potentially their advice can be. And I've seen that with the restaurants, to your point, headline about Starbucks. It's like, dude, you're not Starbucks. Like focus on, like try to learn maybe from someone who's a step or two ahead, or obviously, like you said, the best case is you're learning from potentially a coach or someone in your situation. But it's something that I've learned where it's like, just be careful who you take your advice from, because a lot of advice sounds good, but might not actually make a big impact or any impact in your business if it's not that relevant, right?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's a unique industry, and you need to approach it uniquely. And I make the joke that sometimes you have to unique up on different solutions for yourself because you didn't see them coming at you to begin with.
Right.
So I agree with that 1,000%.
That's awesome. And I know one of the taglines or one of your fundamentals, I should say, not a tagline, but one of the fundamentals, I was obviously reading up on you, and it was, I think, the 5 Ps, and it was perspective, people, performance, product, and profit. So obviously that caught my eye, and I'm thinking, again, I'm also thinking about our operators that are listening in. So if I'm a restaurant owner listening in right now to this episode, where should I start?
Depends on where you're at. And everybody's at a different place at a different time, all the time, all over the place. I mean, you just have to dig in where you're at and ask yourself, what's the top 3 things that if I do right now, I can grow my business today, right now, this very minute? Or what are the top 3 things I need to do with this employee in order to help them grow, which is going to help to grow my business? What top 3 things do I need to do with my guests today, right now, that's going to improve the guest experience? And you have to develop your own models for thinking about issues and problems. You can use other people's thinking and answers and solutions about problems as a template for your own, but you have to understand the unique individualism that comes with each business. I mean, I think every independent operator that's listening to you right now is going to understand that a lot better than a franchise or chain guy, bless their hearts. But it's the independents that have to really grasp that and run with it. Look at your own 4 walls and determine what's going to work right now. And what are the top 3 things that I can make an impact when I take the next step physically in my dining room?
Yeah, I like that.
And it may or may not be something you learned, or it may be some morphed idea that you get or develop through looking at your own processes and systems and the abilities of your own people to execute whatever it is you need to in order to grow your business.
Makes sense. And I find sometimes, it's to your point, it's like focus on the next step, right? People can get overwhelmed and, there's so many things I could do and shiny, object syndrome. But it's like, okay, what can I do today to impact my business? Now, for some people, I know they might struggle with kind of solidifying or identifying what is that constraint. So that's almost like the step before the step. Like, I don't even know. I'm so overwhelmed. Things are not going well. They almost have trouble figuring out what the issue is. Any advice for people on how they can, I know it depends on the type of restaurant, but like how they can maybe think through finding that main constraint or that main problem?
The main problem is always going to rest with the owner. If you understand that all problems are leadership problems, every single one of them, from the utensil that just dropped on the floor to the dirt spot on the door to your P&L to whatever else, they're all leadership issues. So you need to be developing your ability to lead people and a business constantly. And that includes the basis for that, we all know, is thinking. You have to think better. So what are you thinking better about today that you didn't yesterday? What processes in place in your own mind, in your own heart, in your own body that propel you to learn more, therefore you can do more. And if you're not learning, then you're not growing. And if you're not growing as the leader in your own business, neither your people or your sales or anything else. So it all starts with the operator. It all starts with the leader. He sets the pace. He sets the template for what work looks like, good work looks like, and what good growth looks like, both for the individual, the guest, and the business. So I try to impact thinking wherever I go. The do always happens later. I mean, you can learn to do. You can teach anybody to do. But to think about what it is that you need to do is it's the thing. It's the skill. Yeah. It's the super critical.
It's a teaching the man how to fish, not giving him a fish kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And for people who are maybe kind of, light bulbs are going off and they're like, it's true. I haven't actually been learning the last 2 years. I've just been trying to keep my doors like, where can they start? What advice can you give where people can maybe step it up? Is it coaching? Is it like what have you seen that has worked with people to maybe develop those leadership skills?
The difference I tell people is that there's a difference between working in your business and working on your business.
Right.
100%. And I've talked about that for as long as I've been alive. And but it's exactly what you have to do. You've got to stop being the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
So whatever you have to do that, so you can gain a better perspective of the things you need to do to grow your business, your people, and everything else yourself. And you're not going to do that by working the grill every day. Because if you're working the grill every day, then you just bought yourself a job, not a business. And there ain't nobody working on it. So it's not going to grow. In fact, if you stop growing, if you stop working on your business today, it starts dying the minute you do that. So that's when you're going to know that when did my business die? What did I go wrong? When you stopped working on it and you started working in it.
That's a good one. And for people who maybe struggle, I think that's like not even only limited to restaurants. I think it's an entrepreneur thing. A lot of entrepreneurs hopefully learn, but a lot don't ever learn that. But I think that's such a big pivotal moment when an entrepreneur finally understands the concept of, delegating to free up time, to level up, to work on the business.
My title is business owner. It's business. That means I'm a leader. So that's my role. Why am I on the grill? And I'm not saying that the operator doesn't ever need to jump in a position.
Right.
Even when I'm working with clients all over the place, I'll jump on the dish pit. It doesn't matter to me. You have to do that once in a while. But you've got to understand that the majority of your ability to lead your business comes from you actually looking and doing the leadership role. And if you don't do that, if there's nobody doing that, it's, what do you got?
Flip it. I love that. That's a great snippet. That's coming out as a short. That's an awesome snippet. And look, on that kind of same note, I know one of the things you talk about, which I love, but I want to get your perspective is that great service isn't the same thing as hospitality. So I'm curious to understand what's the difference and why does it matter? You would not think that this is very tumultuous, or argumentative about. But there's a big difference between service and hospitality. Service is the basic delivery of food and beverage. Hospitality is how you make people feel in the delivery of that food and beverage. That's a good distinction. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's huge because there are a lot of people out there who are operating restaurants that think as long as the person runs the food and the beverage to the table that we provided service. Well, you did, but you didn't provide hospitality. And that's the difference between people having lunch today and coming back for 12 more lunches the rest of the month.
So true.
So
true. No, I love that. That's a good call out. Like service is almost the bare minimum, right? It's
the technical aspect of the business.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Hospitality is the emotional side.
Yeah. That's a good way of framing it. And what are some ways that you've seen, right? I mean, look, 4 decades of experience. I mean, I can't imagine how many, restaurants you've helped over the years, but any, and I know sometimes it's hard to think on the spot, but any that come to mind of like good examples or unique examples of hospitality, like things people have done, just to maybe share some stories that stand out to you?
I've got 6 gazillion of them. Uh, but the difference is in knowing people. So I'm gonna talk about everything from a 30,000 foot view, but
Sure.
it's
Sure.
easier to understand sometimes.
Sure.
Whatever it takes to know your guest well enough to do things for that guest that make them want to come back.
Mm.
Now, and that's the rule. So, as an operator, getting back to better thinking, you use that and you look at your business and you look at the
Yep.
people that are working in your business and you ask yourself, what it is can we do with the guests that we have today to make sure that they feel great enough about being here that they're going to be a huge raving fan when they leave. Tell people, bring themselves back, their family, their friends, everybody, colleagues, things like that. That will be the determinant for you. And getting back to the initial thing we talked about, every operation is different. So my hospitality is going to be different than the guy across the street, and it's going to be different from the guy 2 streets over, blah, blah, blah.
100%. Yeah.
So it's an individual thing. And it's a moment, you got to be in the moment, which is why the owner needs to be on the floor dealing with guests and employees, delivering that level of hospitality. If you're stuck in the office, or if the manager's in the office all the time, or on a position like we talked about a few minutes ago, who's delivering hospitality?
Well said.
You deliver hospitality in the moment, at the point of experience. And if that experience is nothing more than a warm body bringing me another drink, then I can get that anywhere.
Right.
And we forgot that. We forgot. Everybody's wanting to deliver service and think, well, we serve better than everybody else. When no, because you've got half your staff from 12 different concepts who you never trained. You just allowed them to use their bad habits in delivering food and drink to a table and deliver checks. Okay, well, how is that hospitality? It's not.
Yep. That's fair. It's funny. The parallel that sometimes I see is, when I talk a lot about like beverage costs and food costs and inventory and whatever. And then sometimes and
those are the easy things.
Exactly. And I tell people, I get this feedback sometimes where people say, yeah, but I'm not worried about inventory, this or that. Because at the end of the day, you just got to focus on, having good food. And I'm like, and similar to what you just said, I explain to you, the good food is the table stakes. It's kind of like what you said about serving a dish. It's like, if you don't have good food, you got bigger problems, right? So it's like sometimes people, I think,
you want to talk about Cracker Barrel?
Let's talk about that. That was a lot of media attention. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Yeah, please. Well,
look, it leads in. If you think about what we're talking about, it leads right into a conversation about Cracker Barrel.
100%.
And all the comments that I've been seeing and hearing and being forced in my ears that make me want to yell about, well, they've got good food. They'll come back. Really?
Exactly.
How many good restaurants do you know that had good food and good service went out of business because they couldn't do anything else?
Exactly.
Or didn't know how to work with that good food and good service.
Exactly.
So there's a modern example if you want to talk about it.
No, 100%. It's so true. It's like I think sometimes people don't realize like that the minimum, like the bar is there, but that's the minimum. It's like, okay, you expect the place to be clean, have good food, have good drinks, servers to be knowledgeable. It's like the bar is like there. So when people say things like
Isn't
that,
it
I always
crazy
find
though
it funny
that we're talking about this today? Isn't it crazy that we're talking? The year is what, 2025?
2025.
Unless I fell asleep, right? I mean, but we're talking about the table stakes yet again.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I talked about table stakes 40 some odd years ago.
When he started, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about, the Q, S, C, and B. Quality, service, cleanliness, and value. The old Ray Kroc mantra, right? We were talking about it 40 years ago. Guess what? Year 2025. We're still talking about, can you clean the table? Hey, can you sweep the floor?
Right. It's true. You're spot on. And I'm curious to get your take now that it came up. But you're right. It totally relates to Cracker Barrel. But I'm curious, what was your take on it? Like, where do you think they went wrong? Right, like this new logo change. I'm curious, like where you see, just what's your hot take on it?
They spent too many years not bringing they forgot rule number one in the restaurant modernization playbook, and that is take the guest along for the ride. You can't just all of a sudden, after decades of delivering one product, all of a sudden overnight roll a truck in, make yourself look like First Watch, right, and then open the doors again, and Uncle Herschel's gone. And people are going to wonder, it's like, where's the experience that I got before? I didn't know you were going to change that. I didn't know you were going to change the dining room. I didn't know you were going to change the menu to some New York whatever. I didn't know you were going to change the server's ability to deliver hospitality at the I didn't know that you were going to do all that. And you didn't ask me about it. So now you lost $200 million in market cap.
Yeah. That was crazy.
And then 3 days later, or whatever it's been, you have a news conference and go, "Oh, we made a mistake. We're going to go back to what we did. Uncle Herschel's back."
You think that was the right move to go back? I mean, they messed up. I agree with you, but do you think that was the?
I think when you don't hire experienced restaurant people who have a proven track record of success in the thing you want to do, you're going to have problems.
Fair.
So they had problems. They've still got problems.
Yeah. It's not like everything's solved just because they said, "Oh, we're bringing it back."
It's the ultimate example of shooting yourself in the foot.
That's an interesting one. I mean, so interesting that even the president got involved and was like, if I was Cracker Barrel, he gave us good advice. He's like, bring the logo back. But I was like, that's pretty good advice. But it's
that's
crazy how much coverage you got, right?
It doesn't mean that you can't tweak the brand to appeal to younger guests, but you can't throw everybody else off the bus just to do that.
Right.
And again, it's 2025. This is not the first time that a brand is trying to modernize itself. There's the word. And the wheels fall off the bus.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. No, super interesting. I'm curious to see what will happen. I mean, by the time this episode airs, maybe in a week or two, there'll obviously be more to the story. So I'm curious to see where it goes. But yeah, losing that much in market cap in such a short amount of time is a lesson, an expensive lesson, to put it lightly, right?
I don't know what it's just. I don't have a word for it. It's just stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You don't understand restaurants. Restaurant, especially independents, they understand that you have seasonal menus. You're always trying to upgrade everything at the point of the guest experience. Now, whether that's decor, whether that's the food, whether that's your service model, whatever it is, you've got to take the guest along for the journey. You've got to get their input. They have to be on the team. I mean, people forget that, just because you own the place doesn't mean you've got to talk to a few people before you decide what it is you need to do next. And one of those people always has to be the guest. Yeah. Yeah. Go figure. No. Yeah. 2025 again. Here we go.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's like the fundamentals, right? Like people
absolutely
forget. But
the fundamentals never change, man. We're still talking about them 40 years later. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
No, it's true. It's true. And kind of shifting gears into some of the, real world challenges, I wanted to pick your brain on a few. And one of them that I had written down was, what's one mistake, or it could be more than one, but that you see restaurant leaders making over and over again? So we kind of just hit a few there about like forgetting your customer, but I'd love to hear what are maybe some other mistakes that you see restaurant leaders making over and over again?
Calling guests customers. That's a problem. I mean, there's a difference between service and hospitality. We just talked about that, but there's also a difference between customers and guests. Restaurants have guests. Walmart has customers. If you want to treat your guests like customers, that's a transactional mindset. What are you going to do? You ain't going to have a business much.
Well said.
That's Cracker Barrel. But that's the biggest one is just we touched on it earlier is they don't think. They work.
Yeah.
They do. They don't strategize. They don't look at the tactical viewpoint of their business and think about what it is they need to do to grow their business, their people, and themselves.
Right. And I know there's a concept of, the cloud and the dirt. And it's like, sometimes you got to get in the dirt, and then sometimes you got to breathe a little and get back in the cloud so you can see the bigger picture and work on the business. What advice do you have? I know obviously as much as someone can work on the business is the best, but then there's that reality that hits and sometimes they got to step in. What advice can you give to people when it comes to, managing that cloud and dirt and, that alternation between the two?
It's the dining room. It's not the cloud. You live in the dining room.
Right.
You live, hopefully you don't live in the back booth, but what they need to do is everything we've talked about. Master the fundamentals. And then separate yourself from having to work a position if you're still doing that. I mean, it's 2025. I mean, who's leading the business? You got to understand the importance of leadership. If you don't understand the importance of leadership, ain't nothing going to work for you, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good.
And if you don't understand leadership, call somebody. Call somebody that you admire who's done what you've done, you're wanting to do successfully, and talk to them.
I love that. And on the topic of leadership, I want to pick your brain a little. You've coached thousands of leaders.
Literally.
Well, yeah, right. And so I'm curious to know what separates the good ones from the truly great ones.
The ones who want to learn. The ones who look in the mirror and go, you know what? I don't realize how stupid I was 2 weeks ago.
Self-awareness.
And it's that fire in the belly to continue to learn. I mean, and not just about better ways to grill a hamburger. We're talking about everything. Life, brother. We're talking about how can I grow my employees better? What can I do better for them? What can I do better in the lives of my guests? What can I do better in the lives of my community? Well, I've got to, if I'm going to do something, I've got to teach myself. I've got to learn myself. I've got to inculcate myself with those skills and values and thinking in order to get done what it is I want to do, or what I feel I can do, or what I feel needs to be done. And if they don't do that, ain't nothing going to work, brother. Nothing. Not a thing.
That's well said. I've noticed that too. Some of the best leaders I've met have those two traits you kind of said, which one is
it's like
self-awareness.
when you're on an airplane and they tell you when the masks fall down, you got to put your own first, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Before you can help anybody else. That means you've got to prepare yourself. You got to train yourself up.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. That's it.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like for me, at least,
makes dollars too, brother.
From my point of view, I totally agree, because the two kind of qualities I've seen in I mean, there's more than these two, but the two that I've noticed in pretty good leaders is, one, they're often very self-aware. Like they know what they're good at, they know what they're not good at, like just that self-awareness. And two is they're very curious. Most of them have that curiosity of just, they want, it's not work. It's not like, I gotta, it's like they're just naturally buying books or going to seminars, right? That curiosity is just, it's in them. So for me, those are two things I always keep an eye on, because I notice people that are generally self-aware and pretty curious, it's a good foundation for potentially becoming a good leader or a great leader.
If you look behind my head, you'll see 1,000 books.
I do.
I've got 1,000 more to my right, and I got 1,000 more piled up at my feet that I'm ready to read. It's a constant journey, man. I'm 61 years old, and I've been in the business 40 some odd years. And when somebody says something that I've never heard before, or they're doing something I've never seen before, or I'm feeling something different that I've never felt before, I'm investigating. I'm curious. Cool. I'm going to talk to me, throw me in, roll up my sleeves, get in there. What is going on? I want to learn this. I want to know this. That. And if you're not, if you're not doing it, man, you're not growing. You're not leading. Yep. And if you ain't growing and leading, ain't nobody else in your four walls doing it for you.
Yep. And what's interesting? I always think about why, like, this can happen to any entrepreneur, not only restaurants, but I always think, and this is my theory, I'm curious to get your thoughts. I always think about, why does this happen like more in restaurants? And what I think is, when people get together and they're at a bar, it seems like the I say easiest, but it's not actually an easy business. But it seems like the easiest business that people can think of is, oh, we should open a bar, we should open a restaurant. And so my theory is, because the barrier to entry is a bit lower, right? Anyone can open it. You get a lot of people who are really not made for it, right? Like you get a lot of people who are not leaders or don't have that. So it creates this kind of like discrepancy.
As soon as you tell your best friend Joe that he has the best barbecue because he invites you over, it's like you ought to get yourself a restaurant.
Yeah.
You ought to open up a food truck.
Yeah, it's so true. That's literally the first piece of advice, and it's like, no, don't do it. No. I forget who told me, but it was a funny joke. Is like, hey, if you wanna make a quick $1 million, but by investing $3 million, open a restaurant.
How do you make a small profit in the restaurant business? Start with a large one.
That's a good one. Yeah, exactly. That's better said. Cool. I got a few more that you just got to pick your brain on. One is, and again, I'm sure you've seen this a million times, but it's a popular question. Love to get your take. Is going from one location to many, right?
Yep.
What's the biggest shift in mindset that you think an owner needs to kind of get there? And mindset, and I'm sure it's more than mindset. Obviously, there's operational things, but what advice can you give from someone who's maybe has got their first venue, they're doing well? Because I should probably preface, if you're not doing well with one venue, don't open more. But assuming you're, disclaimer. But if you're doing well with one, what advice can you give for someone to maybe consider, let's say, that second location?
Talk to people who've done that, who've gone through that process successfully.
Right.
The thing I want to talk about is when you're asking people for their input and advice, make sure that what it is you're talking about is something that they've done successfully.
Yes.
It's successful experience that I'm looking for, not just experience. There's plenty of people out there, ask Cracker Barrel, who have failed because they had these great ideas, right? And it didn't include people who've been there and done that and can help you through the process. But the word you're looking for is consistency. Is my food consistent? Are my processes consistent? Is my hospitality delivery and service delivery models, are those consistent? Is my growth consistent? Is my impact in the community consistent? Am I consistently growing people out of minimal roles into more strategic roles? Is my dishwasher becoming my GM next week? That kind of thing. And if you don't have that consistency across the board in all those things, it's not going to work. Don't do it. Don't open the second one, because you're gonna kill yourself.
That's well summarized. Consistency. I like that.
That
makes a ton of sense.
Across the board. And I don't subscribe to the idea that opening the second one's easy. It's the third one that's hard.
Tell me more why. Yeah, tell me more why.
Because it's just that it's the third leg on the stool, and you weren't really ready for it. It's easy to open a second one because you can strain your staff and your resources a little bit easier than you can a third time. Because until you replicate what made you a success the first time, the second time, and then replicate it again for the third time. If you get that process down, you'd be all right. But because you got a good GM, you tell them to go work a few days in the second one, and then come back and run and you stretch your resources that way, whether it's the food or the service staff or the kitchen staff.
Yeah, and you can stretch it in two, but once you stretch it in three, it makes sense even from an owner's perspective, right? I can run around between two stores, but once I start running around three, it's not real. That's a good point. So the number 3 is kind of the magic number where you can see if you at least have something semi-consistent.
If
let's
you
call
have
it
good thinking about your processes that allow you to replicate that level of success. And just because you do it once doesn't mean anything. I look at the third one. If that's successful, then you're ready to go.
Well said. Okay, that's a good one. I love that. Looking ahead, I always like to talk about, what people can see maybe, or people think will be coming in the future. So I'm curious to get your take, right? You've been at it for 4 decades. When you think about the next, 5 years, even 10 years if you want, but let's just talk, the next 5, 10. What excites you most about where hospitality is heading?
Hospitality is not headed anywhere.
Okay, tell me more. What do you mean by that?
We're still talking about we just talked earlier about, we're still talking in the year 2025 about
about the fundamentals.
The fundamentals. They're going to be around in 5 years. They're going to be around in 10 years. The concepts may change, and the food delivery may change, and the science behind, and technology is obviously going to help us a little bit more, although that's a huge problem, I think, right now. But AI is not going to be delivering food to your table. AI is not going to be cooking the food in the kitchen. So we're still going to be doing that kind of thing. Restaurants we're always going to want your ability to deliver a human experience in the restaurant world. That doesn't change, brother. I mean, the things I do for you today to make you a raving fan of my place are going to be the same things you do in 10 years. And they're the same things they did 10 years ago. That's why we're talking about the fundamentals every single day.
Right.
So
it's interesting.
Nobody has a crystal ball, and I really don't like looking at the future in that way. What I do is I want to grow my people. I want to grow my business. I want to grow myself as much and deep and wide as I can, and just see where that takes me. I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years, but I'm going to be grinding. Hopefully I'm smarter in 5 years, that I'm more successful in 5 years, and I've got more successful people surrounding me that I've helped grow into those roles too. And that's, you're keeping the nose to the grindstone. Look at the 3 feet in front of you, and that's all you can do. This 5-year planning crap just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. Like when you briefly mentioned, AI or even just robotics or technology in general. What's your take? I feel like you have a stance on it. Like, do you like?
As long as the technology enhances the guest experience and doesn't supplant the guest experience, I'm all for it.
Got it.
Anything that helps. It's like the biggest thing I've got are handhelds at the table for servers. I think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Outside of the KDS in the kitchen display systems that you're using, I mean, for instant communication of orders and stuff. Yeah. But a server, you go to that, they take an order at the table or write it down, whatever it is. Then they go to this big monstrosity that's anchored in the middle of the dining room, and everybody's lined up. It's like, cut that out. Get them a handheld. Let them order from the table and then hit the send button. And then it's like, okay, what else can I do for you? I took your order. That was the easy part. Let's deliver some hospitality. Let's get to know the guest. Let's understand who and why they're here so we can amplify those reasons for them to come back. Yeah.
No, I love that. I'm a big believer in all the back of house stuff because that's what WIS does. But really, when we started WIS, that was actually the main mission. It was, how do we free up people's time so they could just focus on the things that actually matter, right? Like, instead of spending 10 hours on inventory, can I spend 2? Instead of reviewing invoices manually, can I snap a picture? And it was like all the things that we knew restaurants kind of had to do, and they're important, but they're just long and tedious. And it's not sexy, but it's just like, can we just get people to spend less time so they can actually just do the important stuff? I mean, that's important too, but the focus on the, like you say, the customer or the guest experience, which I think is crucial. Like, anything you can do to focus more on that generally is a net positive, right?
The more resources, the more energy you can bring to bear for the guests at the table, because that's where it all happens. That's why the table is sacred ground. The more you can do for that, the better off you're going to be. And if you're, no fear time. We still have no fear time. 11 to 5 to 8. I mean, everybody's all hands on deck. I mean, and then what are you doing? Not just delivering food, setting it on the table. What are you doing to the guest? What are you doing with the guest?
Makes sense. And I know we're coming up on time here, but I always like to end off with, little thought-provoking question. And so I'd love to ask you, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice before starting out in the restaurant industry, what would it be?
Stay in college and go to law school.
I love that. That's hilarious.
I'll tell you, brother, I don't think that I would do it different. My journey started out in fast food because that's with no experience and no professional skills like culinary or anything else. You couldn't do anything else. So I spent my years in the wilderness in fast food until I was trying to, at any point, get into full service, because that's where the game was. Fast food, okay, that's easy. I got that mastered in the first 6 months, all right? I'm in a shirt and tie after, putting the grill together, so let's go. It's full service. It's more complex. It's about where the metal meets the meat, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, you're building relationships at that point. I mean, you do it in fast food too, but it's just a whole different world. Yeah. And full service was the real world. So I spent years trying to get into full service. And then once I got there, it's like, there's the second epiphany. I should have been doing this all along. If you love people, it's the place to be. If you don't love people, go do something else. And I'm not talking about, it's okay to stand next to somebody for 5 seconds. No, you got to love people.
That's good advice. No, good advice. Well, people listening, hopefully they take it. I mean, if you're not a people person, hospitality's most likely not going to be for you. So no, you nailed it there. I love that. And I like to end off with connecting. I'm a big fan of just connecting worlds, and so our audience can learn more about you, find more about you. So as we wrap this up, Jeffrey, where can people learn more about Summers Hospitality Group, learn about you, maybe follow, maybe sign up for your coaching? So we'll put it in the description, but please link it. So tell me just to get the audio version of it, where can they go?
JeffreySummers.com.
Okay, perfect. So JeffreySummers.com. Any socials you want to plug, or everything's on the website?
Well, everything's on the web. I mean, everything's on the website. I've got reams of information on the website. Okay. But I'm on every social media platform. So just look for Jeffrey Summers anywhere you want to go, and you'll find me. Cool.
I love that. So for people listening in, if you like this and you like Jeffrey, 4 decades plus of wisdom, don't be shy. Give him a follow, Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'm sure he's got a lot of thought leadership stuff going on. And most of all, just go to jeffreysummers.com. So Jeffrey, thanks for joining the WISKing It All podcast today. Really appreciate your time.
Hey, my pleasure, brother. You have a good day.
This was awesome. We'll talk soon. If you want to learn more about Whisk, head to whisk.ai and book a demo.